I decided to take a break a few weeks ago. My late grandmother's cabin in the woods seemed perfect for a quiet escape. I thought it would help me find inspiration. I wasn't too familiar with the area, but I had fond memories from my childhood. The cabin was small, with old furniture and dust everywhere. I settled in and made dinner. The first night was calm, and I felt hopeful. After eating, I noticed a shelf. It was dusty and out of place. I pulled it open and found a journal. The pages were filled with my grandmother's handwriting. I flipped through them. It talked about strange happenings in the woods. Sometimes she'd seen a shadowy figure outside. I didn't think much of it. I figured her mind was just wandering. The next few days, things got weird. I sat at the little table trying to work. Each time I drew, I felt it chill. It was like someone was watching. I heard the trees whispering, and the lake made strange sounds. It made me uneasy. Shadows darted past my window at sunset, but I couldn't bring myself to believe it. One night I heard footsteps, soft but clear. I peeked outside. There was nothing there. I convinced myself I was imagining it. The next day I opened the journal again. My heart sank. The entries mirrored my own experiences, the same feelings of being watched. I read about the figure in the woods again. I shook my head, trying to dismiss it. Then came the final night. I was sketching by the window when I saw someone standing. Panic gripped my chest. I knew I shouldn't go outside, but my legs moved on their own. I stepped into the chill of the night air. The woods were dark and quiet, but whoever I saw was gone. Just as I turned back, a whisper slipped through the air. It was soft but urgent. "Why did you come here?" A shiver ran through me. Was it the wind? A trick of my mind? I felt cold sweat on my back. I wanted to scream, but held it in. My time at the cabin rushed by. I spent the days reading the journal and fighting my nerves. The more I read, the more afraid I became. Each entry felt like a warning. The last of my calm shattered that night. I went to bed, but there was no sleep. The woods seemed to breathe around me. I left the cabin the next morning, packing my things in a hurry. I glanced back at the old walls and wondered what I had stirred. I still think about that week, about everything I felt. I want to forget, but I can't shake the memories. Did I imagine it all, or was there something lurking just outside? Now I can't help but wonder what really happened there. I couldn't shake the feeling when I got back home. The city buzzed with life. But I felt detached. Each sound reminded me of the whispers in the woods, the way the trees seemed to share secrets. I tried to go back to my routine, but every creak in the floorboards made my heart race. The next day I decided to revisit the cabin. Maybe facing it again would ease my mind. I packed a bag with supplies, determined to figure out what had happened during my stay. The drive back felt longer this time. I was anxious, wondering if memories would flood back, or if something else awaited me. When I arrived, the cabin looked exactly as I left it. The door creaked open, and I'm pretty sure I felt a gust of wind push against me as I stepped inside. I hesitated and then went in, forcing myself to breathe. Dust hung in the air like the past refusing to let go. I opened the journal again, but hesitated, staring at those entries that haunted me. I searched the cabin for anything I missed. When I moved an old chair, something metallic glimmered at my feet. I picked it up. It was an old key, rusted and oddly heavy. A strange twist of dread knotted in my stomach. My grandmother had never mentioned a locked room or anything worthwhile in her stories. Feeling adventurous, I explored the cabin again, searching out possible locks. I tried every drawer and closet. Then I thought about the attic. Boxes piled high, filled with memories from a life long gone. I climbed the creaky stairs, heart pounding as I pushed the door open. The attic was darker than I remembered. I shuffled through the boxes, lifting dusty blankets aside. That's when I saw it. a small, locked trunk tucked away in the corner. I felt drawn to it. The key felt warm in my pocket. Just as I was about to try it, a harsh noise shattered the silence. It came from downstairs, a loud bang that rattled the walls. I froze, fear gripping me again. I waited, listening intently. Silence. Then I heard it, a soft rustling, like footsteps moving through the cabin. I wanted to turn back, escape, but my curiosity kept me planted. I could either confront whatever was there or hide like a coward. I took a deep breath and grabbed the key, deciding to check the trunk first. It felt like a lifeline. Maybe it held answers. As I turned to head back down, the footsteps stopped. They felt closer, almost at the bottom of the attic stairs. I hesitated. Suddenly, I realized I had to act, or I might never know. I rushed to the trunk and inserted the key. It turned slowly, like time had come to a standstill. The lid creaked open, revealing what lay inside. I couldn't see it yet, but I felt the weight of something significant. Then I heard a whisper again, like before, but this time it was clearer. You shouldn't have come back. As the lid of the trunk creaked open, a cloud of dust clouded the air. I squinted against it, and when the haze settled, I found myself staring at the contents. Wrapped in yellowed cloth was an old photograph. Intrigued, I reached in and pulled it free, careful not to tear it. I held it up to the dim light, revealing a family, my grandmother among them, her smile bright and carefree. But there was something else, something sinister lurking just beyond them. A figure stood shadowed and almost indistinguishable. I squinted harder, my heart racing. The figure seemed to be looking directly at the camera, or rather, at me. Suddenly, I felt the floor shudder underfoot. It wasn't just the old cabin settling, it was something more forceful. Terrified, I turned back to the trunk, but the photo slipped from my fingers, fluttering to the floor. Before I could retrieve it, a loud bang came from downstairs again, this time accompanied by what sounded like a door slamming. Panic surged through me, and instinct kicked in. I bolted for the attic door, but my feet felt heavy, as if someone was holding me back. "What are you doing here?" The whisper was louder now, imminent. I glanced back at the trunk, heart pounding, my mind reeling. I felt I couldn't turn away from it. Whatever secrets lay in that box might hold the answers, but did I even want to know? Casting one last look at the trunk, I snapped my head down the attic stairs. The faint echo of footsteps began again, now advancing, filling the space with a creeping dread. I hesitated for just a moment longer, fighting against the pull of fear, but the urgency of the moment pushed me down the stairs. I raced to the main floor, moving fast but quietly, hoping to evade whatever presence was in the cabin. I stepped carefully, barely breathing, the wood creaking under my weight as I made my way to the door. Just as I reached for the knob, a cold gust of air swept through the room, slamming the front door shut with force. I spun around, heart pounding, feeling trapped. There it was again, that whisper, now right beside me. "You didn't stay away long enough." That's when the figure materialized in the corner of my vision. Standing there, cloaked in darkness, it was impossible to make out details, yet I felt its eyes boring into me. I couldn't breathe. This was the moment I had dreaded since coming back. In a moment of clear instinct, I recalled the photograph on the floor. It had the answers, but I couldn't go back for it, not now. The presence of the figure was overwhelming. I had to act fast. A flicker of movement near the window caught my eye. I was no longer alone. Someone else had arrived. Instinct urged me to stay put, to confront this mystery head-on. But deep in my gut, I could feel that every decision I made now would lead me deeper into something I couldn't understand. Then, everything went dark. When the darkness enveloped me, it felt like being swallowed whole. There was no sound, No light, just silence that pressed in on me from all sides. I tried to blink my eyes, to fight through it, but all I found was an overwhelming weight. I gasped, panic rising. Was I losing consciousness? Then, like the flickering of a candle, a dim light appeared in the distance. With every ounce of willpower, I pushed through the suffocating void toward it. Each step felt like wading through thick fog, but eventually I broke free. I stumbled onto the wooden floor of the cabin, the familiar creaks echoing in my ears. My heart raced as I realized I was no longer alone, standing in the very spot where the figure had been. I looked around, taking in the dimly lit room. The air felt charged, heavy with unspoken words. And there, in the far corner, was the photograph I had dropped. Its edges curled, and it seemed to pulse with an otherworldly glow. I hesitated, fear knotting in my stomach. What if it didn't hold the answers? What if it opened another door I didn't want to enter? I slowly approached, drawn to it against my better judgment. The whispers started again, filling the room. You didn't stay away long enough. This time, I barely noticed them. My focus was entirely on the photograph. I picked it up, running my fingers over the faded image. My grandmother's bright smile was still there, but the shadowed figure behind her appeared more defined now. A chill ran through me. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was trying to communicate, that it wanted something from me. Suddenly, the front door flew open with a thunderous bang. My breath hitched as I turned toward the sound. I expected to see the dark figure again, but instead, a tall, thin man stood in the doorway, soaked from the rain. He wore an old trench coat. His face was obscured by the collar, and despite the weather, he looked utterly composed. "Are you all right?" he asked, stepping inside and shaking the water from his coat. I nodded, too stunned to speak. His presence felt at odds with the eerie atmosphere, grounding me just enough to regain my composure. "This place isn't safe," he said, casting a quick glance around. "You shouldn't be here, not now." I opened my mouth to ask what he meant, but before I could get the words out, he locked eyes with me. The moment stretched painfully long. I felt a connection, a recognition I couldn't quite place. "I know what you're looking for," he continued, his voice low, almost urgent. "The truth about your family. It's not what you think." A rush of questions flooded my mind, but above all, dread settled like lead in my stomach. I wanted to turn and run, but something told me this man was the key to understanding more. "Who are you?" I finally managed to ask, my voice shaky. Before he could reply, the door slammed shut behind him. The room plunged back into silence. I glanced around frantically as the temperature dropped. The figure in the photograph tugged at my thoughts. "I need to go," I said, backing away slowly. "Stay," he urged, his eyes darkening with intensity. "You need to know the truth." And just like that, I realized I was trapped again, this time in a conversation that could either save me or seal my fate. I took a breath, my pulse thundering in my ears. The air felt too thick, filling with an unshakable tension. The man moved closer, and I felt cornered, like prey under the spotlight. "What do you mean? What truth?" I asked, panic inching into my voice. He ran a hand through his wet hair, revealing a haggard face lined with shadows. "You need to understand your family's past. Your grandmother, she wasn't just a sweet old lady. There's darkness tied to her, to this place." I clenched the photograph tightly, feeling its edges biting into my palm. "What are you talking about? I thought she was just normal." He sighed, his expression darkening. "Normal is a word we use to avoid facing the truth. Look around you." I looked. The room felt alive, shadows shifting in the corners like whispers just out of reach. Memories flooded back. My grandmother's stories, her warnings, never go into the woods after dark, never trust strangers. "Did you know her?" I asked. "How do you know all of this?" "I've been looking into your family for years. Things aren't what they seem," he said, his voice trembling like a leaf. "Your grandmother wasn't just trying to protect you from the world. She was keeping something contained, something that wants to escape." I felt my heart skip. Escape? What is it? What does it want? He stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "It wants you. It wants all of you. Your connection to her is strong, and it senses you're here now." I recoiled instinctively. "You're scaring me." A loud crack interrupted us. Something was moving outside. I jumped, head spinning to face the sound. The rain had intensified, pounding against the roof like angry fists. "Stay quiet," he hissed, eyes darting toward the door. "It's not just the storm you need to worry about." A chill passed through me. I could feel it. Something else was out there. Something that didn't want me to know the truth. "Please," I whispered, stepping back. "What do I do?" "Listen to me closely," he said urgently. "The photograph, it's a doorway. You need to find out what's on the other side. It may help you understand everything, but you have to be careful." My grip on the photo tightened, uncertainty twisting in my gut. "And if I don't want to know?" "Then you're already too late," he said, his eyes wide with intensity. "It's already watching." My heart raced as the air grew colder still. The shadows seemed to close in around me, smothering the light. Suddenly, a figure moved past the window, dark and menacing. I stumbled backward, caught between fear and curiosity. "What was that?" He didn't answer. His gaze was fixed on the door. I could feel the tension building like a coiled spring. Then I saw it. A hand, pale and thin, reaching through the crack at the bottom of the door. I froze. "Get away from it!" he shouted, lunging towards me. But it was too late. Everything went dark again as a cold rush swallowed the cabin whole. Whether I was ready or not, the truth was coming for me. I gasped as the darkness closed in, swallowing every flicker of light. I felt weightless, as if being pulled into a void. Silence filled my ears, a thick, cloying silence. My heart pounded in my chest, louder than the rain outside. Then I was back, standing in the cabin, but everything was different. The air was colder, the light dim and flickering like a dying candle. The man was gone, and a sense of dread prickled at the base of my neck. I was alone. With shaking hands, I lifted the photograph. Its glossy surface felt cool against my skin. I needed to see it. Holding it closer to the dim light, I recognized the faces. My grandmother, radiant and smiling, standing with a man I didn't know. His eyes were dark, almost hollow, and a chill ran through me when I noticed the way he was looking at her. A sudden noise from the back of the cabin made me jump. It was a scraping sound, like something dragging across the floor. I clenched my jaw and forced myself toward the sound, the photograph crumpling in my hand. "Hello?" My voice came out small, almost lost amidst the clamor of the storm outside. No answer, just that unsettling scratching. I stepped cautiously toward the back room, the floor creaking beneath my weight. Every instinct told me to turn back, but the photograph seemed to pull me closer, urging me forward. In the corner, partially hidden by a tall cabinet, a faint light flickered. I leaned over to investigate, my breath catching. As I pushed the cabinet aside, the scratching grew louder, now mingling with soft whispers that seemed to echo from the walls themselves. When the cabinet moved, I noticed something on the floor. A trapdoor, its wood weathered and splintering. I hesitated, but curiosity overpowered my fear. I knelt down, lifting the trapdoor slowly. It creaked ominously, revealing a dark staircase that spiraled down into the earth. I felt a pull, a tugging at my soul. This was the doorway he had mentioned, but what awaited me on the other side? I could hear trapped whispers flowing up from the darkness, seductive and terrifying. Suddenly, another crash echoed outside, shaking the cabin. "Is someone there?" I called out, but only the storm replied. Just then, the photograph slipped from my fingers and landed face up. I grabbed it, feeling dizzy for a moment as my vision flickered. The back of the photograph glowed faintly, revealing strange symbols, ones I had never noticed before. The whispers became louder, more urgent. They sounded familiar, almost like my grandmother's voice. "Come, find the truth." I took a deep breath and made my decision. Ignoring my growing dread, I descended the stairs into the darkness, hoping to find answers that might explain everything. But as I reached the bottom, the whispers turned to screams. Someone was down there with me. I froze, my hand trembling on the staircase railing. I took a hesitant step down, barely able to see where the stairs ended. The air was thick with mold and decay, a stark contrast to the cabin above. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had crossed a line into something I wasn't supposed to find. The screams faded slightly, morphing into desperate sobs. I swallowed hard and pressed down another step. "Is anyone there?" My voice was steadier this time, but the only response was the echo of my own words bouncing back at me. Then I spotted a dim light flickering at the bottom of the stairs. It danced along the walls, casting eerie shadows that twisted and writhed. My stomach churned as I descended, each step feeling heavier than the last. At the very bottom, I stepped into a small room illuminated by a single flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling. The walls were lined with old, dusty shelves filled with jars. I squinted, realization dawning on me that the jars weren't empty. They were filled with dark, murky liquids. Tiny objects floated inside, some unrecognizable, others eerily familiar. Amid the jars, a shape caught my eye, just beyond the light. It was a figure, slumped against the wall, shrouded in shadow. My heart raced again, a cascade of emotions washing over me. Fear, confusion, and a sense of overwhelming curiosity. "Hello?" I whispered, nervous but unable to look away. The figure did not respond, but as I drew closer, I felt a chill wash over me, a stark reminder of the cold air from above. My mind raced. Could it be someone who needed help, or something else entirely? As I approached, the murky light caught the figure's face. It was a woman, with eyes so dark they were nearly indistinguishable from her skin. I felt a jolt of recognition. It was her, my grandmother. But this wasn't the radiant woman from the photograph. This woman looked worn, haunted. "Help," she rasped, her voice fragile, barely audible over the incessant whispers swirling around us. I took one more step forward, but fear anchored my feet to the floor. "Where are you? What happened?" I stammered, trying to steady my breath. She looked up, her eyes shining with anguish. "You must," she gasped, before her voice crumbled into sobs. They echoed in the foggy doom. The room, mingling with the whispers growing louder around us, feeding off her despair. What did she want me to do? My body felt heavy with hesitation. The shadows shifted, almost alive, and the air grew thicker, pressing in on me. Just then, I noticed movement to my right. Something darted between the jars. I turned in time to see a shadowy figure escape into the darkness, but I could make out its face. It was the man from the photograph. The same dark eyes staring back at me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I stumbled back, panic surging through me. "No, don't! Come back!" I shouted. But the figure vanished into the walls, leaving only silence and the cries of my grandmother echoing like a wailing wind. Then, abruptly, the whispers turned to laughter, cold, mocking laughter that sent chills up my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was caught in a web of something sinister. I needed to leave. I turned back toward the stairs, determination igniting the fear in my chest. But as I climbed, I caught one last look at my grandmother's face. "Find the truth," she whispered again, her voice barely reaching me as I flew up the stairs. I reached the trapdoor, throwing it open with a force that startled me. The air above was bright, almost blinding compared to the darkness below. But as I emerged into the cabin, the man was standing there again, blocking my way. I backed away, my heart racing, realizing I might not escape after all. "What do you want?" I gasped, bracing for the confrontation that was about to shatter my world. His eyes bore into mine, unyielding and cold. I felt as if I was standing on the edge of a cliff, the abyss yawning below me, daring me to take another step. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice smooth but heavy with menace. "What do you mean?" I stammered, inching back toward the trapdoor. I was just looking for answers." He took a step closer, his presence suffocating. "Some answers are better left undiscovered." My breath quickened. I wanted to run, to scream, but my legs felt like lead. The atmosphere around us thickened, filling with an unsettling tension that had me questioning if I could even trust my own thoughts. Was he a part of whatever darkness my grandmother was lost in? "Let me go," I pleaded, desperation washing over me. "Please." "Your grandmother called to you," he said, a faint flicker of a smile playing on his lips. "But it's not just her you should be worried about." He gestured subtly behind me, and I turned, glimpsing the outline of the shadow from the basement. It was lurking, blending into the unlit corners of the cabin, watching, waiting. "Stay back!" I yelled, instinctively raising my arm as if it could shield me from whatever it was. I bolted to the side, desperately searching for an escape. Route. There had to be a way out. My mind spiraled, flashing back to the image of my grandmother, her haunted expression, the intensity of those whispers. "Do you want to know the truth?" the man pressed, stepping forward again. "You won't like it." Before I could respond, the shadow manifested into a more solid form, surging toward me. Panic gripped me, adrenaline flooding my veins. I dashed toward the door, a half-hearted attempt to escape, knowing the man couldn't let me leave easily. "Don't!" he bellowed. "You might wish you hadn't." I pushed the door open, the sharp air hitting my face. The world outside was darkening as twilight swept across the sky. I didn't want to think about the revelations waiting for me in the shadows. But as I stepped out, a hand gripped my arm, yanking me back, the familiar dark eyes closing the gap between us. "Listen," he said, his voice suddenly low, almost conspiratorial. "The truth will cost you." "What truth?" I demanded, my breath hitching. "What are you talking about?" He opened his mouth to answer, but just then a loud crash echoed behind me, the noise like shattering glass. Everything within me froze. I felt the weight of something cold pressing against my back, a sense of foreboding creeping in. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of a different shadow moving in the cabin. It wasn't him, or the lurking figure. There was something else, something larger, moving toward me from the shadows. Before I could comprehend, the door slammed shut, plunging me into darkness as the world blurred beyond the cabin walls. I felt the pulse of panic rise within me. I was trapped. But beneath the surface dread, another sensation stirred, a flicker of determination. I had to find my grandmother. I had to understand what she meant by the truth. Then darkness stretched toward me again, and everything went silent. I surfaced from the void, gasping for breath like I had been submerged underwater. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust to the pitch-black cabin. My heart raced as I moved forward, trying to find a way out. My fingers brushed against the rough wall, and I hesitated, listening closely for any sound, any sign of movement. "Hello?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. Fear gripped me tighter than before. The echo of my question faded, swallowed by the stillness around me. The man, where had he gone? Had he disappeared into this dark abyss? Or was he still lurking just outside my sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? My mind flashed back to the shadow, the one that seemed to hold its breath, biding its time. Answers swirled like smoke in my thoughts, clouding my senses. I felt the urge to bolt for the door again, but what if he was right outside? What if that other entity was still in there? My thoughts raced, but there was no time for. I needed to act. I edged toward the door, my heart pounding in my ears. The handle felt cold in my grasp. Just as I reached for it, a low growl echoed through the cabin. I froze. It was coming from behind me. I turned slowly, the darkness pooling around my feet. There it was, the shadow, now more defined, a massive figure with a menacing outline. My throat constricted, blocking the scream that fought to escape. "Stay back!" I shouted, my voice shaking. The growl deepened, reverberating against the walls like a warning. It was closer now, the air thick with an unsettling energy. I had one choice. I opened the door and flung myself outside. The cold wind hit my face, ripping through the panic that gripped me. I stumbled into the night, blinded by uncertainty, but charged with energy. The clearing was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos inside the cabin. Trees loomed over me like tall sentinels under the ghostly moonlight, their branches swaying in the wind. I looked back, heart racing, half expecting the figure to emerge, but it stayed behind, hidden in the shadows of the cabin. "Where are you, Grandma?" I whispered into the night. With each passing second, the memories of her warnings resurfaced, the warnings that had driven me to this cabin, to seek answers. But what answers? That's when I noticed something glimmering on the ground, partially hidden beneath a fallen branch. I knelt down to examine it, my breath catching in my throat. It was an old locket, intricately designed, similar to one I had seen in my grandmother's possessions before she vanished. Clutching it in my palm, I felt an odd connection, as if it held pieces of my grandmother's past. I flipped it open, the hinges creaking. Inside, there was a picture of a family, people I didn't recognize, but there was something about their faces that felt familiar. And then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps crunching on the fallen leaves behind me. Someone was coming. Fear gripped me again, but this time curiosity pulled me in another direction. I had to know who they were. Would they help me uncover the truth, or would they lead me deeper into the darkness? I turned slowly, ready to confront whatever was approaching. Standing at the edge of the clearing, I braced myself, gripping the locket tightly as the shadowed figure emerged from the woods. My breath caught in my throat, and a mix of dread and anticipation coursed through me. It was the same man from the cabin, the one who had warned me. His coat was drenched, but the rain did little to mask the intensity in his gaze. "You shouldn't have run," he said, quietly, almost regretfully, taking a step closer. "Why are you here?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. "What do you want from me?" He hesitated, glancing back toward the cabin, where the darkness seemed to pulse like a living thing. "I'm trying to help you understand. It's all tied to your family, your grandmother." I shook my head, fear and anger clashing within me. What did she do? What are you hiding? Not hiding, he corrected softly. Protecting. There are things in this world that shouldn't be unleashed. Your grandmother was fighting against them. That's why she was down there. He pointed toward the cabin, his voice a low whisper. There are echoes of her in the shadows. You've seen the darkness, but you need to make a choice. Stay or uncover the truth. Uncertainty gripped me. What did he mean about my grandmother, and what had she been doing in the shadows? I thought back to the photograph in the attic, the shadowy figure lurking behind my grandmother. I took a step back, instinctively drawing the locket closer to me. I don't want to get involved in whatever this is. I want to leave. Leaving won't end it, he insisted, his eyes fierce. It will never end if you don't confront it. The whispers, the shadows, they're searching for you. They've found you already. In that moment, I knew he spoke the truth. The whispers hadn't stopped. They had grown louder, more insistent. The dread that had followed me was no longer just lingering. It was pressing against me, suffocating any remaining sense of safety. Then what do I do? I asked, my voice trembling. You must go back, he said, gesturing toward the cabin. You need to find what she left behind. Use the locket. It's a key to the past. Why should I trust you? I gripped the locket hard enough to feel pain in my palm. How do I know you're not part of whatever is in there? He nodded, as if he expected my suspicion. I'm not your enemy. I've been trying to stop whatever has been feeding on your family line. But time is running out, and it's moving toward you. The wind lashed through the trees, and for a moment the shadows deepened, swirling ominously around the cabin like a dark fog. I felt a palpable pull, a combination of terror and fascination. Should I really venture back into that darkness again? I hesitated, glancing toward the cabin where the shadows writhed. Was it a trap set by the figure, or was he genuinely trying to steer me toward safety? A lump formed in my throat as I looked back at him. Will you come with me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, the weight of my question heavy in the air. He nodded solemnly. I'll help you confront whatever is waiting. With a heavy heart, I turned back toward the cabin, half expecting to feel the weight of something lurking behind me. Yet I pressed on. The man followed, keeping pace beside me. As we approached the cabin door, its frame loomed like a dark maw, inviting yet foreboding. Breath trembling, I opened it. The familiar chill rushed out to greet us, whispering secrets just beyond comprehension. Inside, the shadows were alive again, swirling around us, and I gripped the locket tightly, feeling the warmth pulsing beneath my fingers. The flickering light seemed to dim as we stepped inside, casting ominous shapes against the walls. Where do we start? I asked, glancing around frantically. Follow your instincts, he replied, his tone steady. The locket will guide you. Nerve overtook me. I took a deep breath and focused on the locket's glimmering surface, its intricate symbols seemingly alive in the low light. A strange intuition tugged at me, urging me toward the far corner of the room, where the trapdoor lay hidden. As we reached the trapdoor, I could feel the gravity of the moment swelling. The whispers grew louder, almost tangible now, and the man leaned closer. What you find there may change everything you've believed. Are you ready? I hesitated, a torrent of questions swirling within me, but I nodded, more out of determination than clarity. I had come too far to turn back now. With an unsteady hand, I lifted the trapdoor, feeling the cool, damp air rising from the depths below. The whispers swelled into a cacophony of emotion, each sounding like my grandmother's voice, mixed with countless other echoes. I descended the stairs with the man by my side. The air thickened further as we reached the bottom, and the shadows danced like flames around us. Every step triggered a sense of foreboding, but I couldn't stop now. The room was the same as before, the jars lined up against the walls, the smell of damp earth unmistakable. But my gaze was drawn once again to the figure slumped against the wall. My grandmother, her eyes brimming with emotion, wrapped in shadows but alive in spirit. "Help," she gasped, as the memories of the past began to crystallize around me. I stepped forward, locket clutched tightly in my fist. "What do you need?" I asked, my voice breaking. Suddenly, the man stepped between us and the figure, his voice urgent. "She's not who you think she is. This isn't just about uncovering the hurt in your past." In that moment, I felt an overwhelming decision pressing on my chest like a weight too heavy to carry. Did I want to know the truth that had remained hidden for so long? "I do," I said firmly, my voice steady despite the storm of chaos surrounding me. "I need to understand." The air thickened as the shadows whispered and surged, but I held my ground. It was time to confront the truth, no matter how grim it might be. I wasn't leaving again, not without knowing everything. As I stepped toward my grandmother, locket raised high, the darkness roared, and the boundary between worlds shifted. The whispers crescendoed, and I braced myself for whatever awaited. Answers would finally be revealed. Yet, as the light began to blur around me, one thought echoed clearly. Would I emerge from this darkness as the same person? Or would the truth change everything? The shadows beckoned, and I stood on the precipice of discovery.